What is going on, everybody? Good to see everybody back again for week one of the NFL season. Bobby Fye, Eric Sheetsaver, and Jake Rohde. Contrary to belief, I have not died. I have not disappeared. I'm back, and I'm ready to go for football. Sheets is already ready to go after the big win on Friday night. Sheets, huge win. We'll start off with just talking about that a little bit. Fun to get the showdown out of the way early on, and talk about your love for football that you were talking about pre-show.
You know, I hate football so much. I hate NFL DFS, and I wish it would never exist. We always say that to start the season because this is the way we kind of mess with the NFL gods. So yeah, I got off to a good start with the showdown slate. I upgraded my systems a little bit. I'm using SaberSim to do my builds, but I've been also using some of the stuff that McCool has put out in the portfolio manager tool with Showdown to filter out dupes. And I can't say whether that was exactly the reason why I won, but it certainly contributed. I ended up having like an average dupe count of like 6 or 7. You know what I mean? In that type of tournament, which is very, very, which is pretty strong. You know what I mean? With like 500,000 for first, and more to the point, there were lineups that, according to my numbers, had a chance to win. That with like 6 and 7 dupes. So I'm going to be continuing to do that and throughout the course of the season with Showdown. Just everything's a learning experience. So I'm in the off season, I was learning how to use his tools a little bit more. And I'm still learning, like everybody is. I'm trying to put those to use between our projections and SaberSim and your substantive takes and Roadies as well and the portfolio manager tool and all this other stuff. I'm looking forward to this season in the NFL, honestly. Both from classic and whatever. I do want to share one thing. I may as well promote this a second. I'll actually talk through this with you. So I've been putting my stuff up on Stake Kings for a while now, and I do it really for every sport that I play and everything that I play, even stuff that are like $1, whatever, just because I want people to get the sweat and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I put up like the entire kitchen sink for NFL today. I'm trying to figure out ways to kind of make sure everybody has a chance to get in on that, only because what we ran into in the last like couple of months, there were these bots actually that whenever I would post something, it would like auto snap the whole thing up. So I'm working on that. Listen, this is not a money-making thing for me, really. It's something to hopefully get everybody a sweat,
Yeah.
So it's not, listen, I don't care whether my 35% gets sold out in 2 seconds or an hour. I'd rather have 12 people with 3% than one person with 36%, honestly. So I'm working on that. And the other thing I'm thinking about, Bobby, we could talk about this maybe offline, but I figured I would talk about it anyway.
Yeah.
We should probably do something where you either have to be like a full-paying TrueDFS member to participate in this stuff, or at the very least get like a better rate or something like that. Like if you are,
I agree with that, and I want to figure that out throughout the year.
Well, we will figure that out.
And I'm actually meeting with Tyler. We're going to do a little show next week talking about some of this stuff. So I'll go over some of the ideas that I had. I'll talk to you beforehand, obviously, about all of them.
Yeah, but aside from that, I mean, listen. Last we really spoke about football, honestly, to the whole crew. Bobby was only a week or two removed from getting the big cheese, the big $1 million score, and put a lot of pressure on everybody else. I said I got to win $1 million, and I have to do it the hard way. It's hard to win $1 million. I got to win 20s here, 50s here, 50s here. I got to do it, and now I'm like kind of stuck because they have these 44-44s, which I normally would never play. But number one, I need to try to win $1 million to like catch up with Bobby, and there's no way I'm not playing it coming off of a luck box 75K like a couple of days before. There's just no way I'm not doing it. I would never do it normally because I don't play that kind of stuff. But there's no way on week one coming off of that thing I'm not doing it. So I'm looking forward to the season. I mean, my rap aside about the NFL, I'm really looking forward to it, and we'll figure out the content along the way. I think it's off to a good start with an early look Wednesday, and then this thing for sure. And this timing, I think, is okay, because I know you guys maybe want to watch other shows or whatever it is. So I think this is actually a good timing also. And and Brandon's hopefully leading up the showdown slate content, but we'll be in and out of that too for sure.
Absolutely.
And I'm kind of psyched, and I'm actually really psyched for week one because week one is definitely more of kind of a no ball slate than some of the others. You have all these guys that unless you've been, and we'll talk about this too. Rody should know more than everybody, because the only people that really know about these guys for real are the people that have been grinding these best ball drafts like for the last 6 months. Like, they know all these guys, and I really don't. So I'm sitting at looking at these median projections and can't pronounce some of their names. You know what I mean? And so week one, when we don't really know if these projections are any good, it's like knowing who the players are helps. And unfortunately, Bobby's been not as locked in the offseason as he has been otherwise, but we'll get there.
I'm catching up though. I mean, when you have times up in the middle of nowhere and you're driving for hours and all this stuff, you listen to a lot of podcasts, and I'm getting there. And I always say the same thing with myself for basically every sport, but for NFL, 3 to 4 weeks in, I feel like is my sweet spot. I always tend to start starting to play a little bit smaller, because we know all these things and there's a lot to speculate on. But in a few weeks, like, you sort of get a feeling for really what teams are trying to do. We think about last year with Isaiah Likely for Baltimore, and we're trying to figure out whether that was a real thing or not, going all the way up until the playoffs. But it's just one of those things where you sort of get a feel for what teams are running and stuff, more so in the first few weeks than I think you do in the preseason. But anyway, I do expect Rody to be fairly prepared with all of his best ball drafts and all that. So
I want to say a couple of other things. Again, this is usually outside my character, but I'm going to do it anyway. So there are a lot of sites and there's a lot of ways to approach content and stuff. I'd like to say that I think that we do a really good job of combining takes with process, and you always get our honest takes, and you'll always see what I'm playing pretty much, or at least my process leading up to it. So I do encourage everybody especially the people that are in here for free, to kind of sign up for the site, and we are, like, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm going to have to do a little more of the marketing and talking about, like, get you to sign up and stuff like that, because quite honestly, guys, I mean, if we don't get paid subscriptions, no one's doing this for free. That's just the way it's going to be. So I'll try to do better with that. But one thing I'll trade you for that is that when I do give my content, and I think this goes for all of us, I'm literally holding nothing back. Like, I'm not like saying one thing and playing something else. I'm not saying, well, you could play this, but I'm honestly only going to play 30% of something. You're getting my full thing. I'm not pretending to be like the best player in the world or even the best teacher in the world, but you're getting my honest takes at least, and what I'm doing, you're going to get. So that's all what I'll promise to you.
I can promise the same thing, and that is what we want to do over here. We want to be transparent. We do have our promo NFL 2025 for those of you guys who do want to join, and we've got great packages out there. I think we have a lot to offer. You'll get all my exact exposures. By the way, I'm a little full week starts for me next week, more around the Wednesday time frame next week. But I will post all my exposures in the Discord for all the paying members today. And we'll have all the content back up to usual for me, at least by Wednesday. You guys have been doing it already.
Yep.
K9, I appreciate that. Says sign up totally worth it. And real quick, before we get into today's slate, I did want to, we got a question from Ali, and this is something that I think a lot of people go through. He says he's got a $100 ticket, I'm guessing, to the Millionaire Maker. What should you focus on as far as building that one lineup? One is to try to be a little bit more unique. You only have one lineup. You're trying to beat a ton of people with a very top-heavy prize pool. But I would say that my strategy, and look, there's different ways to play things. Early in the season, I tend to go far more on the game correlations than I do later in the season.
That's interesting. Okay.
And it's, it just, I think there's you've got like some really good games to choose from today to speculate at least on. The Indianapolis, Miami. I think we all know Tampa Bay and Atlanta was basically like a gold mine last year, and they have been many times in the past. And then you've got the afternoon games. That's sort of the way that I'm approaching it. So I'm really targeting those five games as my, the majority of my pool. But I would try to get way off the board if I was playing one lineup with a $100 ticket, especially in the Millionaire Maker. Rody, how you doing today? Any sort of overall thoughts before we start talking about what we like, positions, game stacks, etc.?
Yeah, I like everything you guys said. I mean, I got nothing much. Yeah, I know a lot of the players from best ball, but I mean, today the pricing is so nice. Like you're building a lineup and you feel like you got tons of good guys in your lineup today. So you don't really have to dumpster dive and you don't have to go to some questionable spots, everyone's like, oh, you pick up these guys from like the Cleveland running back situation with the one guy out this week, but you still got Jerome Ford there. and you got that Samson guy there. You know, like you don't really have to even get there. You still got Bucky, you got Chase, and you got guys in elite roles today that are affordable that you can get in your lineups today. So you don't really have to dumpster dive as much today. I'm going to try to build good players with look at ownership and try to correlate that way and keep a little bit light on the game stacks. I do a little bit. I like the game stacks still like normal, but I mean, I'm fine with like just one team and no run backs even. Like, you know, you'll have some bigger totals and some good games, you know, so just kind of getting off the board that way with my builds.
Well, let's talk about it. I guess we'll, I think Sheets hit on a lot of really good stuff, but in terms of games to target today, is there games you're targeting, Rody? Is there a specific things that you're looking for? Is there anything you're well overweight on before we get into positions?
Yeah, like we talked about pre-show, like I like that Bucks Atlanta game a lot. You know, dome game. I like that. You mentioned that Miami Colts game. They're in a dome as well, you know, and Hill had an injury last year. We don't know if he's really going to be back to normal, but I mean, he could be the $8,000 player and he's super cheap today and in a dome game that we like to target. You got the Rams game in the late night, you know, Houston, you know, are they going to play fast with Nico? You know, their receiver Christian Kirk's out, right? So you got Nico only there. You got Adams on that team now and Nakua. So maybe Adams is the target monster he's been, and they force feed him the ball, you know, and it's a dome game. So just some of those games that I like that are in the dome today. And then you got the Bengals versus Cleveland, you know, that's going to be a lot of people like. And then the SaberSim really likes that Jacksonville game. You know, they like the Jacksonville Jaguars a lot in the SaberSim build so far. So that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. I don't know what you guys are seeing too. So,
yep, I think so. Sheets, how about you? I mean, I know you sort of you got your projections. You're letting them run. Is there anything that's sort of standing out to you that maybe you thought you might not be getting? You're getting a little bit more of or less of than you thought you might?
Yeah, first of all, I will say that I'm not going to update projections until past noon because I made the mistake. It just takes me a little while to do it, and then they don't release the injuries till 11:30 anyway.
Yeah.
So they'll be up in plenty of time. Okay, so what you're seeing there is old, but noon will be when I put them up there. One thing I found interesting was that there weren't really any big totals. You know, I didn't think at least. You know, there was like a 48 or maybe or something like that. But there weren't like those ones you saw near the end of the season last year with all those Lions ones with the 53s and the 54s and stuff like that. So I guess that was one thing to note. And one thing, again, we'll talk about as we get through at least the first 4-6 weeks is, you know, when teams are in good weather and in the dome, it makes less of a difference this time of the year than it does later in the year when it gets cold in other places. You know, so like the delta between a dome and a non-dome game in September is not the same as the delta between a dome game and a winter game in December. Yeah, I mean, Tampa, Atlanta, I mean, that's going to look good. But here's the question, right? Is it going to look good because of the Igwabuki guy, or is Igwabuki going to look good because of the game? You know, I still think that it's 48 points, pick'em game in the dome. You know what I mean? All these things are kind of double counting. But yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense. But again, do the players make the game, or do the games make the players? You know, I guess it's a little bit of both, I suppose. You mentioned Miami, Indianapolis. I mean, this is, you know, all kinds of action from there. At the beginning of the week, I was expecting Daniel Jones maybe to be the most popular quarterback. I don't know if it's actually going to work out that way at the end of the day. But I mean, you got all these Miami guys too. Maybe even what's his name, Waddle has a good season coming back. You know, that's very possible. But the one that I think people are going to be, this is not even the hipster play, but I think people are just going to cram this eventually, is this Bengals Browns game. I think, you know, and because as you mentioned, Rody, like all pricing's pretty soft, and I did this when I did my preview on Wednesday. I mean, again, I didn't really know anything, and I just said, okay, let's see what I can do, like get these Bengals guys in. And I did, and I said, okay, and Njoku looks like the best tight end on the slate. Points per hour, I'll put him in. And then maybe you put Flacco in there. I mean, it's like so easy to do. So I think that game makes some sense also. And then again, we're gonna see what SaberSim gives me. You know, I can't imagine the New England Vegas game would be that great. You know, I was about to say I can't imagine the Arizona New Orleans game would be that great, just because New Orleans doesn't seem to have a lot of firepower. And then you're seeing Alvin Kamara getting like a chunk of ownership. So I don't know. We're gonna see, but There's no one game to me that really stands out, honestly.
Yeah, I like all those other ones. And I mentioned the Tampa Bay Atlanta history. I think they're averaging like 60-something points per game over the last few years combined. They just seem to go nuts. I mean, the reason why Atlanta didn't make the playoffs last year is probably because of this Atlanta Tampa Bay. Kirk Cousins in games that were not facing Tampa Bay was like one of the worst quarterbacks in recent history. And against them, I think he threw for like 8 touchdowns and 900 yards in 2 games or whatever it was, something crazy like that. So that's the one that I like, but also I like the afternoons. And again, you have a little more flexibility playing the afternoon games in general, especially when you have 3 good ones. You can always.
Well, Bob, let me ask you this. I mean, before we get into it, and let's just the elephant in the room here at 12:55, right? Are you playing Christian McCaffrey? You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing with that?
So, the thing is, I don't have to decide at 12. So at 3:55 is really when I have to decide. Is the way I'm.
No, what I mean is like before the 1 o'clock games. Are you going to play McCaffrey at 4? You know what I mean? Like, and then because he gets ruled out, just swap. I mean, like, are you thinking that if he plays, I want to play him? You know what I mean? Like, how are you handling McCaffrey? I think that's a really important thing we have to think about before we do anything. Because you know what they're saying? They're going to say he's available right now.
Right.
Or they won't say anything until they say game time decision. Game time decision, and could be the most popular, well-projected running back play on the slate, even though they're saying, oh, he looks good. We've seen this movie before, haven't we? I mean, I don't know what I want to do with this.
Yeah, Schefter did just tweet that he will play week 1 for what it's worth.
Okay.
So it's not questionable, really. But.
Okay.
I'm expecting him to play. The Niners need a bounce back season, but I'm not going out of my way for it, to be honest. There's a lot of other running backs that I like. I absolutely would be fine, though, taking a stand one way or the other. I just haven't. That's just where I'm at personally right now. But I do think it's a good question. And I personally am just sort of going a little bit elsewhere with most of my running backs today. Although it does fit into my idea of playing a little bit more of these afternoon games. Because I do think I think there's some, we mentioned the early games, but Seattle, San Francisco, the Rams in Houston, and Detroit, Green Bay could all be, very, very good for DFS. And as you mentioned, people talk about Detroit outside, but this is great. This is good weather time. The only game, in fact, that has real kind of a little bit nasty weather, and even it's not that bad, is New England and Vegas, which is another game to consider. But thought I'd go through real quick just my quarterbacks. It's a little spread out right now. I think I'm going to try and condense this afterwards. Probably after Sheets does his projections.
Wait, hold on. Before we even get into this, I have the SaberSim projections up. Are they middling McCaffrey here?
Feels like it.
17 fantasy points doesn't exist.
It feels a little.
And they project their own ownership 11%. No,
I could see the ownership being a little bit lower because of the pricing, but.
I don't know. I think if we knew he was a full go, I was expecting more like 35. But okay, you could be right. I mean, I don't know.
No, okay. Interesting. I'm curious if that might even update after we get official. We won't have official injury reports for that one until the afternoon. But for me, what I'm getting right now is, again, like I said, a little bit spread out at quarterback, but I have Penix as my highest owned quarterback today.
Oh, let's go!
Really?
So and I don't see myself changing that. And that'll be in my high buy-in builds probably as well.
Woohoo! Let's go!
I like that one. And then I have a little bit of the chalk Daniel Jones, a little bit of the chalk Trevor Lawrence, and then quite a bit of Brock Purdy, Joe Flacco, CJ Stroud, Baker Mayfield, Tua. Those are my sort of my quarterback pool as far as I'm going. What are you running into right now, Sheets?
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so you're a big believer in this normally. Is that all else being equal, and it's never all else being equal, that you want to have some rushing upside from your quarterbacks. And what's interesting is that when I'm looking, again, I'm just looking at the SaberSim builds right now. It's like Trevor Lawrence, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. Flacco is not a running quarterback, whatever. Kyler Murray. Daniel Jones, I would only get 6% of right now. But the Trevor Lawrence play seems to make sense. He's gonna be owned, I believe. But when we talk about ownership, especially in the Millie Maker in NFL DFS, no quarterback is more than like 15% owned like ever.
That's right.
Okay, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Because people usually, make sure the quarterbacks go with receivers. you know.
Right.
So and that's why I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to be that high owned, because I mean, who would they really? Who's like that great on Jacksonville as far as the receivers go?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we're looking at Trevor Lawrence, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Flacco. Again, what I try to do with these shows is I try to get your takes and Rhodey's takes, and honestly, whoever comes into the Discord with anything good, like someone saying eat Higgs for Houston, I have no idea who that is. So we'll talk about it, you know. And especially like week one, I'll incorporate all this stuff, and this is not something I usually do, but I'll like up, for example, my Penix either projection or exposure, just because Bobby likes it. I mean, again, I know that's not the way I usually play, but in NFL, I have no problem doing it, you know. So so right now I'm a little undecided, but if you like the Penix, I'm definitely gonna include it.
Nice. How about you, Rhodey? What are you getting to quarterbacks wise right now?
Like I'm kind of on the opposite side of you. I like the Baker Mayfield, like I stack a lot more. I'm getting to a lot of Trevor Lawrence in my like Saberson builds right now. I did do a stack of the Tua Waddle Hill with like a Taylor run back type build and Warren for tight end there, kind of like that stack. And then I was like a CJ Stroud. I mean, he mentioned Jaden Higgins in the chat. I mean, Jalen Noel is another guy for Houston that's viable. Cheap guy, but he was talked up more in the best ball streets, but then Higgins looks better in camp. So you know, we don't really know in that situation, both young guys there. Daniel Jones, like said in that other side, you know, he looks like more of a cheap cash game type quarterback if you want to jam good players in. And then on FanDuel, if we want to mention that for QB, like Jane Daniels, the pay up quarterbacks over there look a little bit better than the more expensive guys with running upside. I like that on FanDuel a little bit more. Besides that, I'm staying with those main guys quite a bit, you know, Lawrence, Baker, and mostly those guys. Little Joe Burrow, obviously, my Cleveland or game stacks. So with them.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's wild. How crazy is it that Joe Flacco is like a very relevant player in DFS in 2025? It's just it'll never end. And by the way, if you look at it, you know it's crazy, and people sort of mock this Joe Flacco thing. I actually didn't think it makes sense what Cleveland's doing, and I think they'll probably turn it over to somebody during the season. But Joe Flacco, if you look at his last 17 games, so full season, it's like his numbers are like right there with like he's thrown more picks and stuff, but just behind Lamar and Josh Allen. You know, he's put up some crazy numbers in the last 17 games he's played. Now it's spanned over 3 seasons, but still kind of wild. I'll jump into running backs real quick because I'm kind of getting a little more chalk than I want, and I'm wondering if I'm going to end up changing that up a little bit because I do have Kamara, Chase Brown, James Conner, A-Chain as my and then Jacobs as my most popular, and Jonathan Taylor. Those are the chalky ones, and those who I have. Now I love Bijan Robinson this year, but I just want to go back to my point of always what I say about Tampa Bay. You really just don't run the ball on them, but Robinson, you know, basically can be like a wide receiver at times, so I'm not as worried about it. But not getting very far off the board at running back so far early in my early builds. Anybody getting off the board at all? Sheets, what are you getting to at running back, and is there anything like off the board maybe? Because I'm really not getting to a ton off the board. My highest owned off the board ish, and it's not even that far off the board, is guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, Kenneth Walker, but not even getting that much more than the projected ownership of them. Is there anybody you have off the board, or what are you getting?
No, not really. Honestly, I'm sort of market weight right now on pretty much all these guys that you mentioned. You obviously, I presume you mentioned Bijan Robinson in that mix there. I currently have A-Chain more, but not by much. And I mean, he's questionable. He's fine. I'm sure he's fine. The Jonathan Taylor is the one that's picking up all kinds of kind of steam, I think, a little bit, and I think it makes a little bit of sense. If you're going to play Daniel Jones, here's the thing about Miami's secondary is like really awful, you know. So that's I guess one of the reasons why Daniel Jones can also do well. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor, Chase Brown. I mean, these are unfortunately the guys that you mentioned. Just looking down the list of who I even ask about. Anybody know who Travion Henderson is for New England?
Yeah, Travion Henderson. So he's the rookie for New England. There's going to be a lot of flashes with him. I'm still speculative about this every down or however many downs he's going to play. But he has, you know, he's extremely talented, can always break one. Really, really, really talented young guy, steal of the draft. That's sort of the lowdown on him.
And we didn't talk about, obviously, we didn't even mention McCaffrey yet. It's like
again, I'm underweight the McCaffrey at the moment, but like I said, we always talk about these things, our ownership and everything, but once it comes to the afternoon, things might change drastically.
Okay, I'll give you a couple. All right. So I'll throw. It's a little early for the Millie Maker take, but this is gonna be the second or third time I've tried this.
Okay.
Who showed a lot of spunk and a lot of flash last year was Tyrone Tracy for the Giants. So I don't know exactly what his role is going to be, whatever, but I presume he's going to be the top guy, the Giants, and they're against Washington. I don't know what Washington's going to look like this. Who knows? But I think Tyrone Tracy was trending upward last year. So again, if you're looking for someone who's going to be, not owned, I guess, he's someone you could look for. And another one, kind of from the same, I'm going to say territory or whatever, is so you have what's his name? You have Aaron Rodgers, like coming back to New York with the big revenge game, right? Coming here. And what it's one thing to look at Aaron Rodgers as like a guy that could just hail it down the field on the Hail Marys, but he became kind of a check down guy recently.
He didn't want to get hit. He had to get the ball out of his hand.
So I think Jalen Warren is kind of in play here as well. For Pittsburgh. So Jalen Warren and Tyrone Tracy would be my two kind of off the board, plays to throw into the mix.
I like that Tracy idea. The only thing we worry about, I guess, with the Giants is that they have they have running backs they like. You got Scadaboo, the rookie, who I think everybody's like darling of just an actual player. And then they're going to play Singletary some too. But I still like that Tracy idea, and I think it's a good call. What are you getting to, Rhodey, at running back?
Yeah, I like that guy. I actually put Tyrone Tracy in my playbook because Washington gave up like a ton of touchdowns on the ground last year. Yeah. So it is viable. But yeah, Scadaboo's one of the big guys I've drafted in best ball, so I know all about him.
We'll see.
Too. I'm getting to a little bit different. Chase Brown, Bucky Irving are my top favorite ones.
Oh, Bucky Irving. Okay.
Yeah, Bucky's in a great spot today. Projects really well. I like that game. I like that. Chase Brown, obviously, in that game, high usage for him. Kamara, I'm getting a lot of not bad price tag. The Saints might be terrible, but like he gets a lot of dump offs and stuff like that. Maybe he gets a lot of work. There's really nobody behind him that we like. Kenneth Walker, I think his price is way too low. 5,900. I like that. And they're a ground and pound type team. And I think he'll get a lot of work at 5,900. He gets in the box twice. That'll be pretty good for his price. I like that a lot. And then, no one's talking about like Kyron Williams. I like that game environment a little bit. So I stack that up and run him back with that. And then, the other guy I'm getting to would be a little bit of Chubba Hubbard and James Conner, the two other guys I like more than CMC too. I'm not on CMC as much today, not really on Bijan today, and I'm not really on like the Gibbs-Montgomery combo for the Lions. We haven't even talked about that game. Or Jacobs even. I'm not even that high on Jacobs. We'll see what my optimizer gives a little bit. I know they like him a little bit, Jacobs more.
It's an interesting game because now you've got we could argue those are the two best teams in the NFC or two of the three best teams along with the Eagles. I had two sneaky teams this year. Atlanta is one of them, and my bet is Atlanta to win the division. I can't believe they're getting points at home against Tampa Bay on opening day. And my other big take before, but the problem is I made these bets when I was actually in Michigan visiting some friends, Rhodey, and I made all these bets on the Packers. This is before the Parsons trade, so we'll see. We'll see if the Packers and Falcons can be two sneaky teams because I did want to get some straight DK sportsbook bets in there, and it was nice to be in a state where I could do so. Nice. All right, wide receiver. We know that pretty much I think that Jamar Chase is going to be significantly. Well, I don't know about significantly. He'll be owned, and then Abuke will be the next most owned guy. I'm guessing. You'll get a lot of Brian Thomas. And again, I don't want to. This is where I'm a little concerned with some of my builds. I like to go take bigger shots and be a little bit more wild. The biggest guy I have leverage on the field is I've got a bunch of Josh Downs. I'm not sure even how I feel about that. And then I'm getting a lot of the chalk. I also have a lot of like Juwan Jennings. Stephon Diggs, am I missing? Like, I know he's coming back from a serious injury, but shouldn't he be more expensive? And if not, shouldn't he be higher owned? Those are the two of the questions I keep asking myself. So higher on Diggs, high on guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba, high on Drake London, but that's not off the board at all. Basically, for me, it's going to be a lot of that Tampa Bay Atlanta game, and then the afternoon guys. But they're kind of weird to get in. So yeah, a lot of Igbuke, a lot of Mike Evans, a lot of, as I mentioned, Drake London. I'm getting a decent amount of Ray McLeod right now, which is a little weird. Not weird, just, we know there's upside for all those Atlanta guys, but I'd like to be just well overweight that Atlanta Tampa Bay thing, and then sort of let the afternoon figure itself out. What are you getting, Rody, at wide receiver? Then we'll go over to Sheets, I guess, and talk about his.
Yeah, like a lot of those guys, like on the games I'm in, like Brian Thomas obviously stacks up with Jacksonville well. Nakua, you got the other guy, like Nakua is like one guy that's like nobody gonna own really. He's like expensive, but I mean he like really good. I like that game a little bit, so I'm gonna try to get some of that. I can't ever say his name for the Bucks, but the new guy, Maka Buka.
I tried Igwabuka earlier.
Yeah, but I mean he's gonna be really chalky. I think I like Evans a little bit more in that game, but I mean like the pricing is so good for these guys. I mean you're dipping way down. I mean you got Marvin Harrison at 5.5. I like Paracel might be a little chalky for that 49ers team. He's only 4,500 in an elite spot. Diggs 5,300. You mentioned the New England. I like that. Don't mind Drake May stacks with Diggs in there. Like you just got so many low-owned guys. Like even Jerry Judy's 300. So 5,400, whatever. There's a lot of guys down there. Debo at 52. There's a lot of great price guys. You feel like you're getting like Waddle like a 5,700, Jennings at 4,900. So you can really stack up that San Francisco game really well. Olave at 51. If you think the Saints are just going to chuck it to him and Kamara, like, you got that, so just a lot of good guys. Like Drake London's probably my favorite. Brian Thomas, obviously. T. Higgins is a great price. I like that that mid 6K. I love that range. But then you can even get some nice guys down in 5K that really fill in your builds that you can finish out your build with,
All right, yeah. So I have a couple of questions about some dudes. Okay. I want to know from either Bobby or I've asked a couple of people, Bobby or Rody, like the difference between, and tell me who's better, between the Abuka from Tampa, Tatuaria McMillan from Carolina. There's a guy who I think he's on Jacksonville or maybe Tampa, the guy that plays both ways.
Yeah, I was going to mention him, Hunter.
Travis Hunter.
5K,
yeah. Other guys like that. And then another guy I'll ask you about. I mean, I want to know if Cooper Kupp was still in the league. And I saw that he's in Seattle with like a 9-point projection. And I want to ask you if I'm hallucinating with that. And then if this guy, Torrey Horton, who I'm getting 10% of, is the reason for that. He's 3K. So what about these guys I don't know about?
Yes. Okay. So I'll go start with the oldest one first. Cooper Kupp, I think definitely, is on the other side of his career. I'm really sad actually to lose him. I don't think that, I think it is an upgrade to get Devontae Adams, but I don't think it's like, a couple years ago people would have thought that. And I think he's still got enough, something left in him, but I don't know exactly what it is. And Seattle, I'm just not sure. I want to see how it works with Darnold out there, especially against San Francisco, who can get pressure, and Darnold's not great against pressure. So I'm not sure about that one. All of the other young guys, I like all of them. Igbuke is probably the one who's like the darling, and they got him as a steal in the draft, kind of a deal. He's really talented. Travis Hunter is the best player of all the guys you mentioned, but partly of the time he's going to be playing cornerback as well. So I don't know. I don't have a great feel for how many snaps he's going to get on offense, but I do think they'll look for him. And it was probably, you could argue he's the best receiver in the country. And then he was probably, the 10th or so best cornerback in the country last year in college. But I like all of them. In terms of today, I think I'm probably going to end up on a little bit of the Igbuke chalk more, just because I'm playing more of that game.
Right.
But I don't have a strong decided, individually. I think if I wasn't playing that game, I would probably look for the biggest game from McMillan of those guys.
Is Mike Evans like an amazing play today instead of Ibuka?
I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be popular as well.
Oh, he will. Okay.
I think he is a good play. I just think that whole you kind of just want exposure to all those guys. In that, it's harder on the Atlanta side, but we'll get into it at tight end because I've got a strong take at tight end. Today. So that is Kyle Pitts. And I don't care what people have a field day with this all they want. everybody talks about Kyle Pitts. Oh, he can't get in the end zone, all this stuff. He had one less touchdown than Brock Bowers did last year. Was it one or two? I think Kyle Pitts has, and he's the only player in NFL history to his first 4 years in the NFL to increase his touchdowns by one every year. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I think this is going to be a good year for Pitts. His best games were against Tampa Bay, and I really like Kyle Pitts as a contrarian tight end play. And he's going to be probably one of my highest owned, if not my highest owned, and you're getting really, really low ownership on him. So I really like that play. Other than that, I don't mind the chalk, Njoku, Kittle, McBride, Bowers. All those guys make a lot of sense to me. Curious to get Rhodey's thoughts in a minute on Tucker Kraft. And then other than that, I thought that Hunter Henry is probably a little bit. I think he's going to be a little bit too low owned versus what his role could very well be with excuse me, why am I blanking on New England? Excuse me. But Kyle Pitts is the one I'm making a real stand on at tight end. What do you got, Rhodey? And then we'll go to Sheets.
Yeah, tight end I like a lot. Even Kate Otten for the Bucks, like at 3,800. I think. I mean, he was kind of banged up a little bit this week, so we'll see. But I mean, I really like him at his price tag, and he's targeted quite a bit. Without those receivers from last year, too. Like Godwin out and Jalen McMillan. You're down to the two main guys plus Otten. I think I like that. That Brenton Strange for Jacksonville also at 3,300. He'll probably be a little chalky, but like a lower spend guy that I like. Tyler Warren at 4,400 for the Colts, I really like. Njoku at 4,700. He'll probably be owned, though. He'll be the most owned, probably. That and Kittle, 5,800. And then you obviously have McBride and Bowers in pretty good spots. Their usage is pretty high. Tucker Kraft's are also right there in the mix at 4K. Really like him. He's like a drop. Tight ends do very well against the Lions, typically for the Packers in the years past. So I think at 4K, he's very viable today. And then Kyle Pitts, I really like him. I have him in some runbacks in my Baker stacks. I like him a lot as well at 4,300. So those are kind of the main guys I'm on as well there.
Makes sense. Sheets, what do you get into at tight end?
Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, I think are they're not even freaking tight ends. I mean, these people are animals. Okay, these are wide receivers that are like 6'9". You know what I mean? Like these guys are $6,200 and $6,500 wide receivers, and on a slate like this where pricing is soft, I think that you could play them. I think you almost should play them. I'm not getting a holy war about George Kittle, but I think that these two guys are even like above George Kittle at this point, of just total upside.
As receivers, yeah, maybe as real football.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, obviously George Kittle's like the greatest tight end like ever, like in general. But
he's a great blocking and all that. Yeah,
right. And Njoku, I don't know, like 20% owned Njoku, maybe. I don't know about any of that. I know he's cheap and all this, but how much Flacco exposure are we really going to play? I really don't know.
Seriously.
He's showing
and is
up.
Everyone else is going to end up with Joe Flacco everywhere because I think it's possible.
Listen, he's showing up fine. The guy that what's his name that Rhodey glossed over pretty quickly, Tyler Warren, the Penn State rookie. I heard that he's good. Another guy to go with the Daniel Jones experience, right? So that's not bad. And then I do like the Kyle Pitts point. You want athletic guys, like you want guys that can do stuff. And I don't need to play these, not that they're bad plays, but I don't need to play these Hunter Henrys and Zach Ertz's and Dalton Schultz's and you know what I mean? Like, and all these guys. I mean, if I'm gonna pay up, I'll pay up for the superstars, and then I'll pay down if I have to. So I prefer to not get to that range.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. I think that makes a lot of sense. And before we're going to get into defenses real quick, and then we'll talk about our takes of the day, and then we'll get out of here. But I did want to just remind everybody, because Sheets will say it before, so I'm gonna beat him to the punch. You really, especially if you're playing hundreds of lineups, I don't think that it's all that logical on a big slate like this to have more than 20% of any defense. And Sheets is going to say that's one thing he always does. And I sort of feel the same way today. And oddly, my defenses are coming, which I kind of like when this happens. My defenses are coming a lot from the games that I'm playing. Like I have the Falcons defense a ton, but like they can give up points, but you have Baker who can also get a little wild and plenty of room for some stuff there. I have a lot of the Browns defense, which is just because they're 2,300, where I needed the extra couple hundred. I have a lot of the Seattle defense. Purdy, we know sometimes he throws off the back foot, opportunities for mistakes there. Those are my main defenses. But like I said, going to spread out at defense in general. Sheets, will let you go defenses next, and then talk to Rhodey before we get started.
I think that people still don't appreciate the variance of defenses. I mean, they're just the DST position. It barely correlates with winning, much less anything else. You know what I mean? Like it's it correlates sort of with winning because of like if you really smash, you're going to get pick sixes. That actually adds to points at least. What it doesn't correlate to is I don't even think as much of the running back as it used to. You know, whatever. So what I like to do again is just limit my exposure, and this is something I don't ever do really in other sports, but as far as limited exposures do. But I'll limit my exposure to defense to some amount, 15, 20% max or something like that, just because of the variance. Because you know what you'll sometimes get? Sometimes you'll get these running backs, this super chalky running back, and the way these algorithms work, they'll say, okay, you're going to play this running back, we're going to give you this defense. You know, and sometimes I wonder whether the defense, you know, what's the tail wag the dog, you know, whatever.
Right.
So I'm getting the same guys as you, Falcons, Browns, whatever, Jets, even. But I will. This is what I will say as far as ceiling goes. I'll give one out, and it's funny. I want to get credit for it because I gave this out like days ago, and then a couple of other places have said the same thing. But in any case, what you're looking for, at least conceptually, in a DST is this: you want to be against a team that's going to be slinging the ball around, okay, with a QB that doesn't give an F, okay, and that's basically it. And that team hopefully be down, so he's continuing to not give an F. And the perfect example of that, and it would be nice also if that quarterback was a little popular. So I like the Bengals defense today. Okay, that's my
absolutely
opinion. Let Flacco get out there, and he doesn't give an F. He's doing whatever. He's slinging it all over the place until he gets replaced. You know, and the Bengals last year got they got torched all through the air. So I imagine first of all the Cleveland's not going to be shy about trying it. You know, and for me, I mean, and they're expensive, so they're going to be equally unowned. You know, so you could totally get them in. So I wonder if they're going to be even too not popular, but because people are going to play Chase Brown, I wonder if the Chase Brown exposures get you to the freaking Cincinnati defense for the wrong reasons. I want to play Cincinnati defense without playing Chase Brown. You know,
I don't think people are going to end up on Cincinnati because I don't think they're going to spend up enough. But I love the idea of it.
That's my at least conceptual take on what type of team you're supposed to play defensively.
Yeah, and Allie's bringing up the Texans D, and maybe I'm too much of a homer, but I think that's the word. I hate the Texans D at 2,500. They are 2,500. That's the reason it makes it. They have a very good defense for being 2,500, but you're playing against a Rams team that does not turn the ball over, does not make a lot of mistakes. And it's not exactly the situation that I would want to go into. Of course, we said that about Jared Goff, and then he had the 2 5+ pick games. And by the way, I will say that this is probably not the right slate, but if you're playing the afternoon slate and things like that, I think you should be targeting defenses against in-game stacks when there's 4 games or less. And that is what won me the $1 million because I played the Washington skinny stack with the Washington defense against the Lions in that game. And you just, when games go a little cuckoo, you end up with a really weird build that people just do not correlate ever those things. And going back to the old days with Grant Nefer, where we used to do that with the Chargers, we play Charger stacks, but Phillip Rivers would always throw. He was always good for a couple picks and maybe one. You hope for a pick 6. And taking sacks, you can play a defense even in your stack. And know that sounds crazy, but you want to do it more on small slates, not on these 12 gamers. So look for that maybe in the afternoon slate. Rhodey, what do you got for defenses? And then we'll go into some hot takes, which Rhodey's favorite part of the show.
Defenses. I don't mind the cheap ones. Like I even have Houston a little bit, 2,500. I even have the Titans at 2,200. Against the Broncos, which I don't mind. We didn't talk much about the Broncos, but they could be a high-powered team, but the Titans against them, I don't mind that. I mean, Titans are bad, but anything can happen. Like we said, even, Giants versus Washington with Jane Daniels running it, maybe fumbles it or something. Don't mind that. Don't mind the Saints at 2,400. I kind of spread out all these cheap ones. Don't even mind the Seahawks defense a little bit. They're a little bit, I think they're still 2,500 as well against San Fran. We don't know how great they're going to be this year. A couple people banged up still to start the season, so maybe Seahawks do pretty good. Mm-hmm. I don't really have a good expensive defense. Maybe the Steelers at 3,300 I'd like, or obviously the Broncos at 3,800 if you want to pay up against the Titans that we don't think are going to be very good. But besides that, I mean, I mostly had all these cheaper defenses down here. Even the Raiders at 2,600. I'm trying to stay in that mid 2.5, 2.6.
Makes sense. Is there okay? So I guess that as we jump into just I'll go through a couple of my hotter takes here. Not necessarily hot takes, but I think you should be playing Tua instead of Daniel Jones in that game. I think that the Miami stacks some combination of probably Tyreek Hill and two players from Atlanta are going to be in the Millionaire Maker is my thing, and one of those being Kyle Pitts. So Kyle Pitts, one other player from Atlanta, and Tyreek Hill all in the Millionaire Maker winner. That's my.
Well, I like that.
What do you got today, Sheets? You sort of already mentioned one.
Yeah, I got to do a little better than that though. All right, you want to try one? All right, we'll try it. We'll try an ultimate Millie Maker, like 0% owned stuff. All right. So what it's going to do is here's the concept. It's going to be, young quarterback, maybe, and it's going to be playing from behind and 0% owned, and the guy I want to go to. So the two TDs plus for $1 million will be Cam Ward to Calvin Ridley for Tennessee.
I like that.
Coming back, maybe one in regulation and one in garbage time after Denver puts that game away. So that's going to be the $1 million combination. Is Cam Ward? I don't know who makes his professional debut. Can you prove he's bad? Not yet. Maybe
he's not going to be bad. I can promise one thing. I don't know if it's going to be this year. I think Cam Ward is like the lock of all locks.
There we go. So why can't it be now?
He's a top 15 quarterback for the rest of his life, at worst.
Yep. So that's my $1 million no shot play.
Love it. All right. How about you, Rody? Anything hot for us? It could be even a season long. It could be anything.
Oh man, I don't have anything hot today.
Well, you got your Lions playing the Packers. Okay, so which one of them is going to win the NFC? Because you're going to pick one of them. You're going to take the Packers. Your Packers.
I have it the Lions, the I have it the Packers, the Bears, Lions at third. Actually, Lions at third.
Oh my God, third in this.
Not even second.
Wow, this Bears love is I think it's gotten a little bit out of hand in my opinion.
I'm just kidding. It is out of hand, but it's a tough division. Even the Vikings are right there, right? It's a tough division. I like one of their young guys. Maybe that Golden guy steps up, and he's a really good player for the Packers, so he could help lead. I like your hot take on like Hill today. I just think no one of these 4K guys is going to end up in the Millie Maker. Like I don't think we need it. I think it's going to be like a 5K, 6K build, or like a Nico Collins, Hill, or one of those Nakua guys. But they're using cheaper running backs versus the 7K guys, and they don't need to dip down in the 4K like the Mbuka at 4.6 or Parasol at 4.5. I just don't think those guys are going to be in the winning lineup today.
Okay, I like that. I do think that Pearsall is going to have a good year. I want to throw that one out there.
No, I do. I think he's good. I think the Mbuka is good. I think they're all good. But I think the pricing is so soft today. I think good guys are going to get there at 5K prices and 6K prices. So
Yep, that makes sense. I'm going to go just real quickly, and I'll do my season long pick. I think the Ravens, and I haven't decided exactly which one, but I think people have slept on a little bit the Lions too much. I like the idea of the Ravens Lions getting after it in the Super Bowl. And if there's a sneaky team from the NFC, I think that it is Atlanta. I actually think that they're going to be much better than people think.
I will give my team to win the Super Bowl as the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay, wow. Let's see. They got to stay without defense. We're going to see if the Bengals can win the Super Bowl.
That's right. That's right.
All right, guys. Anything else before we get out of here? Well. No, it's good to be back with everybody. I'm looking forward to full season. I'm gonna get my picks together, and probably around 12:30 Eastern, I'll load it up in the premium channel. We again use code NFL 2025 to get 33% off the first month, and we've got some great stuff going on, and hopefully you guys will be able to join us this year. Sheets, great to see you again, man. Good to see you, Rody. Yep. And I think we're out of here, right, guys? Good luck.
Wait.
Okay, I'm not out yet. We're not out yet. Go ahead.
Rody.
All right. As always, guys, good luck and let's get it.
Let's get it.